back to the Glue Glue podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn. And joining me today is Brush. How's it going, Brush?
I've been better, Kyle.
Yeah, I think we've all been better.
Yeah.
I think yesterday was just an absolute abomination, a disgraceful performance. Um, it all started with the Gaze error for the first goal, and then another error for the second goal. And as usual, United have such a soft centre. They just totally collapsed mentally. They gave up and they were 4-0 down within 37 minutes. It was just an absolute disgrace. I feel sorry for the United fans that paid to go to Brentford yesterday. Yeah, it's just we anticipated that things would be the attitude at least would change this season under a new manager, but that hasn't happened. It's the same old, same old. We've lost 7 away games in a row now, and I mean the scorelines alone of those away defeats was it 4-1 away to City, 1-0 away to Everton, 4-0 at Anfield, 3-1 at the Emirates, 4-0 at Brighton, 1-0 at Palace, and 4-0 at Brentford yesterday. That's a disgraceful run of results, isn't it?
Absolutely abysmal.
So, what was your thoughts on yesterday's performance?
Pretty much just to echo everything you just mentioned about yesterday. Absolute shambles. Yeah, and their heads drop. And then you would have seen in the game against Brighton as well. These players, after a certain amount of time, they just revert back to their default and what they know. I don't really think there is a way to fix that as such. You just need to get rid of them. And then obviously with our incompetence from above and the way in which we deal with transfers, it becomes an even longer process to ship out the players that we need out and to get new players in.
Yeah, I mean the manager has been badly let down in the transfer market. I mean we're at the 14th of August now, and we've spent about 50 million.
Incredibly so. I mean, ideally, Carl, you would want your key targets over a summer to come in and go on the preseason tour, right? You'd want them to have a tour together. You'd want them to train and have a couple of matches and do all of that. And yeah, this is the trouble with waiting around in the window.
Yeah, yeah, it's been absolute shambles of a transfer market. It echoes that of 2013, really, to be honest.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
it-
It also flashbacks to Jose's second summer, where all he got was Fred Dallo and Lee Grant.
yeah, if we ended the window right now, that we would have basically an almost identical window to that.
Yeah, yeah, it's like that one. Yeah, because you look at all the things that we identified that the squad needed. What have they really addressed? It's crazy.
Yeah, I think Malasaya is not starting ahead of Shaw. I don't know why, because Shaw's
Yeah,
been abysmal in the last 2 games. Um, Martinez was probably at fault for the third goal yesterday.
I think it was a collaborative effort, though. I don't think any of them covered themselves in glory at all. Um, yeah, yeah, it was terrible, terrible all round.
Yeah, it was starting to become a bit concerned about David De Gea. He made an error in pre-season, which led to a goal. He pushed one out against Brighton, which led to their second goal, and then yesterday was just an absolute catalogue of errors. He's starting to have a bit of a meltdown again, like he did a couple of seasons ago, and then what's made it even worse is that Dean Henderson was superb today for Forest, saving Declan Rice's penalty and getting a clean sheet.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Are you concerned about the form of David De Gea?
I mean, either way, I think this is going to be his last season. I've always said that this is going to be his last season just because of the astronomical wages he's on, and it doesn't make sense long term. I don't think he's the solution, especially with the way the game's changing, and the way we see the manager wanting to play out from the back and whatnot. I don't think he's the guy.
No, he definitely isn't. I mean, what is he doing trying to pass the ball to
Mm.
Ericsson straight down the middle in that situation? Ericsson was being
Just
pressed.
unnecessary. It was it was all our own fault. It was just, there was no need for that. It was all our own making, and it ends up in the back of the net. Completely shell shocked. It was unbelievable. Absolute shambles.
Yeah, there was an easy ball out to Maguire in space,
Yeah.
and he plays it to Ericsson, who was marked, and that was only a couple of minutes after he basically threw one in. Uh,
Mm.
I mean, at that level, there's no way that team effort should be going into the back of the net for the first goal. But this
Yeah.
is not the first time we've seen the guy do that. He has these really rocky spells, and he looks like he's going through another one. And it's the last thing that we can afford right now.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what it is. But I mean, look at the whole squad. We can pick up and critique any areas. There's nothing going right at the moment, is there?
no, there's not. The fullbacks are absolutely appalling as well.
Yeah.
I was really, really surprised he made one change from the Brighton game. McTominay dropped out for Ronaldo, and that was it. The Brighton performances warranted more changes than one, in my opinion.
Mm.
Um, Yesterday, Manchester United were outrun by Brentford by a massive 13.8 kilometers. And apparently today, Ten Hag cancelled their day off. Uh, he put them through a brutal training session in 30-degree heat, and he made each player run 13.8 kilometers each, which is the same amount that the Brentford outran them yesterday. So yeah, that's absolutely disgraceful, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're back to the Manchester United that don't even track runs, don't they just
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
want
but
to.
this is the problem, Carl. This is what we've been saying for years now, because the core of this group have been together for so long, and they spent the best part of the last 3 years playing counter-attacking football, and that's what they know. And anything that deviates from that, they give up, and eventually they go back to their default, which is what we've been seeing, and it's just not good enough. And a lot of these players shouldn't be here, if we're being honest.
Yeah, um, yeah. If Ten Hag was at Manchester City, he'd be able to make a lot of changes very quickly.
Hmm.
But that doesn't happen at United. We're going to be saddled with these players for about two or
and
three more
that
years.
and that is the problem. So I mean, the core issues of this, it all goes down to the ownership, really. The changes that we need to see need to come from the top down, and until those things happen, we're just going to be in this continuous cycle. Because even now, look, we're panic. Panic is set in now. The transfer window is about to close. It's fast approaching the deadline day. We'll probably bring in some last minute short term deals. Like your Cavani's, like your Igalos. And yeah, we need to stop doing that. I would rather we take the time to properly rebuild, even if it means going through a bit more pain initially. So by that, I mean addressing the wage structure, not just chucking money at average players and bringing them aboard. You would have heard about the links to Rabiot. Rabiot is a player who, 4 or 5 years ago had a lot of potential, very talented. It's not gone well for him at Juve. I think it's been a mixture of things as well. His mum's his agent. They've always chased the money. There's attitude issues as well. And do we really want to bring in a player like that at 27 who we have to take a chance on and try and unlock? And if their main motivation for coming is money.
Yeah, he just seems like the wrong player at the wrong time.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, when I heard about that, somebody tweeted it out, right? And I commented, wow, if we're moving for him, we might, as a joke, I said, we might as well throw our hat in the ring for Muriel Icardi as well. Complete the circus. And then, like a day or two later, I heard that we are actually linked to him.
Yeah, you were, yeah.
And it was us and Galatasaray. So that in itself should tell you as well where we're at as a club.
Yeah, I mean, the onus was on improving the culture of the dressing room, and they were being linked with Rabiot and
Yeah,
Icardi.
yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because it's not just about talent. Obviously, you have to have the talent, but the attitude and mentality and all of that plays a part, and you need to get that right. It was one of the things Sir Alex was very good at. Whenever he inquired about a player, it wasn't really about talent or how he is on the pitch that he inquired about first. He always asked, "What's he like as a person? What's his family life like? Who does he surround himself with?" These things matter. They play a role.
Yeah, and we haven't been doing our due diligence in that department for quite a while now.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So that's the thing. So I'm tired of this vicious cycle, and the only way to end it really is to tear it all up and start fresh. Ideally, you'd have to get the Glazers out. But if the Glazers stick around, then other changes need to happen. Murto and the whole team they've got at the moment above Ten Hag, it's not working.
Yeah, you know what? If the Glazers do end up selling, Murta and Richard Arnold, a whole lot of them have to go as well.
Yeah, they all have to go. They all have to go. Look at how many years Luis Campos was there dancing for us, wanting wanting us to come in for him. He's gone to PSG this summer, and they're getting deals done left, right, and centre.
Yeah, we're hoping and praying that Sir Jim Radcliffe is going to be our savior.
But even with that, Carl, I think we're clutching at straws really, because a lot of that hype only started because he was in the running to buy Chelsea. There's never really been any strong links with him and United, apart from the fact we hear that he's a United fan.
Well, he was apparently asked, why aren't you trying to buy United? And he said they're not for sale. But that may change in the future. I mean, if we end up, which is expected, another season outside the Champions League, the Adidas money is going to be heavily decreased. There's they'll continue to take dividends. They continue to pay
Yeah.
off interest on loans. There's going to be a lot less money to spend on the team. The share price is going to come down. The value of the clubs is going to come down. So at some point, they're not going to have the money to invest in the stadium, the training ground. At some point, they're just going to have to cut their losses and sell up for
You,
3 to 4 billion.
you would think so, but then my worry is that they will probably look at what clubs like Barcelona are doing and think, if our revenue falls, there's probably other ways we can make up that money. And it's going to be a very, very dark, dark future that we're looking at.
Yeah, but that would be, I could bring an end I could liquidate the club if they're down that road. I mean, the people in charge of Barcelona are absolute maniacs, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's crazy what's happening over there.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying the analysis from Sky's, let me get this pronunciation right, Cavi Soulhill call. I can't pronounce his name.
I can never say his name, but I always see his name pop up on Sky Sports, the transfer center whenever I'm looking for updates. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's one of their main transfer journalists, along with
Yes.
Dom Chef. They're always in the
Yeah,
stadium together.
yeah.
So he says he's been very vocal against the Glazers this week, and he's been tweeting again today. And he says Manchester United's rivals have owners who put money into their clubs. United's ownership model means 1.5 billion has been taken out. The money spent on transfers has come from supporters, not owners. Supporters want their money spent on the club, not interest, bank charges, and dividends. Yeah, he's absolutely right. And we've seen Gary Neville go in on them again yesterday, and he got into an argument with Jimmy Redknapp, who was trying to blame the players and the coaches. I mean, what I've noticed over the last year or so, or even further back than that, is that people who are not associated with Man United don't really get it. They always try to go after players and managers, and of course they have to take criticism too, but they don't get the bigger picture like we United fans do, that it all stems from the ownership, it comes from the top down.
You know what it is, Carl? Because from the outside looking in, they just look at the numbers and they see that over the last decade we've spent 1 billion. They don't see the other deeper issues. They don't see that it's our own money that's been spent. They don't look at the other things that are lacking. The fact that these guys have no clue about football. They've entrusted people who have no clue about football to run day-to-day footballing operations. It's all destined to fail from the top down.
Yeah, in the last 9 years, more money has been taken out of the club that has been spent on new players.
And I'll tell you what, this is a thing as well, because obviously we concentrate predominantly post Fergie, right? But a lot of these issues were there even when he was there. It's just that he was such an elite manager, and David Gill was competent enough at his job that they could keep things ticking over. But the issues were there. I'll take you back to 2009. So you sell Cristiano Ronaldo for a world record transfer fee of 80 million. How did that money get reinvested? It didn't really. We spent 16 million bringing in Antonio Valencia. So this is a player. So Ronaldo at that time had won the Ballon d'Or as well. So I can confidently say in 09, probably the best player in the world, right? We replaced the best player in the world with the best player at Wigan Athletic. How does that make sense?
Yeah, the problems probably started in 2005 when they took over. Whenever you take Fergie out of the equation, then that's when the problems will start, and that's exactly what happened.
And I'll
But
tell you what, in '05 there was because we had the break-off group, didn't we? That went on to create FC United of Manchester. At the time, I thought it was a bit crazy, but looking back on it now, they saw the bigger picture at the time. They saw what was coming down the line.
they did, yeah. Um, and some fans, I know it's controversial because of his importance to the club and his achievements at the club, but some fans have, and journalists as well now, are bringing up Fergie's role in the Glazer takeover.
Well, yeah, he has got to take responsibility in that as well with the Rock of Gibraltar and that whole situation.
Yeah, if he hadn't get into that dispute over that horse with JP Magner McManus, they might
Yeah,
never have sold the club to the Glazers. And
they probably wouldn't have sold it in haste,
yeah,
so they probably would have moved on. But it would have been somebody else.
and David Gill tried to say debt is a road to ruin in 2004, but by
Mm.
2005 he was saying it was healthy debt. Ferguson clearly was defending the Glazers in public all the time, saying money was always
Oh,
available to
so
them. And
much. He deflected a lot from them. He tried to, like, you'll remember when we were getting in the likes of Bebe and Overton and we're signing old man Michael Owen and giving him the number 7 shirt. Um, and he was out here telling us that there's no value in the market. For me, that is just him trying to cover up the fact that, the Glazers weren't really putting up the money at the time. Um, because of course you just got 80 million world record fee in 2009 and 2010. You could have bought a plethora of players. You could have brought in a Sanchez, an Ozil, an Aguero, a Silva. Take your pick. You could have picked about 3 of those guys for that price for the money we got for Ronaldo.
yeah, and Fergie is still on the payroll, and I would say that is hush money more than anything else. So,
Mm.
um, and some people have said he inflicted even more damage on the club by appointing David Moyes. Uh,
Well, see, this is another thing. Um, to what extent do you think Fergie played a role in that? Because for me, I've always assumed that the board agreed that it was going to be Moyes, and then basically just told Fergie, "Listen, Sir Alex, this is who we've chosen. Do you mind going and like giving your cosign to this?" Because I find it incredibly just ridiculous to believe that you are allowed to handpick your successor. In what industry can you do that? It makes no sense.
yeah, but I suppose if anyone was going to be allowed to anoint their successor, it would be him.
Well,
But
if that is the way in which it happened, then further questions need to be asked, and it just comes back down to sheer incompetence.
yeah, and that incompetence is still around today.
Yeah, like I don't care who you are as a manager. I don't care if you're Carlo Ancelotti, if you're Pep Guardiola, Otmar Hitzfeld, anyone from history. No one should be allowed to pick their successor. That's not how it works.
Yeah, given that it was a Scottish manager that he was friendly with, that it just looks as if he was the one who picked him.
I just think they kind of use that to ease him into it, really. I think, yeah, obviously there's the familiarity with the Scottish thing. I just thought it was so random at the time, especially where we were as a club, um, bringing in a manager who'd had zero experience of challenging nor winning anything. It made no sense to me.
Yeah, it didn't, and then things just got worse from there. I mean, there were under Mourinho, I think there were some. Didn't realize it at the time, but there were some good times picking up the old trophy. But we thought
But even
discipline.
with that, Carl, at what cost? I mean, the thing is, when you bring in a Jose Mourinho, you need to understand what it is that you're signing up for. You need to know what he's about. You need to understand that he spends a lot of money. He likes aging players. He will bring you success, but on the field, it won't be pretty to watch. When he leaves, it's going to be an absolute mess, but you worry about that later. And then, so when you bring in a manager like that, this is the kind of due diligence you need to do before you bring him in. So halfway through what he's trying to do, you can't then stop and not give him the tools that he's asking for, which is what happened. And then obviously Jose did what he did, and it all turned very toxic.
I think the club appointed him just because City appointed Guardiola. They wanted to bring in Guardiola's nemesis next door, and then to try and
And this
antagonize
is
him.
and this is the other thing, like people who are in the know, uh, a club of our stature, the Jurgen Klopps, the Pep Guardiolas, the Ancelottis, they were all available. We just didn't act at the right time.
Yeah, well, apparently, in a meeting between, was it either Matt Judge or Woodward met with Jurgen Klopp when he was a free agent, and
Mm,
they told him that it was the Manchester United is like adult Disneyland, a comment that Klopp didn't warm to at all, and he ended up at Liverpool in the end.
yeah,
Because I mean, he probably quite quickly, caught on that these people are not interested in football. They're interested in, the commercial side of the business, and that's their number
hmm
one priority. And that was something that he didn't want to be part of. And Van Gaal has said that publicly quite a few times now. It's not a football club; it's a commercial club,
yeah,
and that's the way it's been run. Pretty much, for 17 years, and especially the last 9 years. And that's why we're in the doldrums now. We're rock bottom of the Premier League now. I
yeah.
don't think that's going to
Goal,
change anytime soon.
goal difference of -5. We welcome. Well, we're playing Liverpool next week. I am not looking forward to Monday. Um,
Oh no, definitely not.
yeah.
I think I think the only way for United fans to get through Monday is maybe to put a bet on Liverpool to win 4 or 5-0, and then
You know what? It's one of those where you can never bring yourself to bet against your own team. It's one of those. Come Monday, I'll still watch. I'm a glutton for punishment, so I always watch in hope. More wishful thinking than anything, but yeah, it's going to be painful, isn't it?
yeah, it could be 4-0 after 20 minutes. But
Yeah, yeah.
that's what this team is capable of. They did it last year against
That,
Liverpool.
yeah,
They did it
yeah,
yesterday.
yeah.
So just to talk a wee bit more about individuals yesterday, I thought Marcus Rashford was he hasn't tracked a run in about 2 years, and it was more of the same yesterday.
Listen, earlier in the week, I had rumors that PSG were sniffing about. Listen, if they if they are serious and they're offering 60 million, I'm dropping him there myself.
Yeah, but I have zero faith that the board would take that decision. It's because
It's the
he's
PR, isn't it?
yeah
That's what it comes back down to. We're a
he's
PR
the
club. It's the stuff that he does off the field. It's
mhm.
a good image. Obviously, he's homegrown as well, so there's that factor. It's the number shirt he wears. All of that plays a part, whereas it really shouldn't, and it should just be football based. And if we're talking just football based, yeah, he should go. It's time.
Yeah, he's been out of form for the best part of 2 years, but because
Mm.
he's so good off the field, and he's a homegrown player, he's going to outstay his welcome, isn't he? 100%.
The wages he's on is very concerning as well. So that would be another thing that I looked at. If PSG or did want to come in, because there's not going to be too many opportunities to offload those wages.
Yeah, and he was, and we are short of forwards right now as well. That's
Yeah,
another reason why I think this is not going to
yeah.
happen.
But no, but this is the thing though, Carl. This is why I don't think there's any short-term fixes. I think we need to plan long-term and just accept that it's going to get more painful before it gets any better. But we need to make long-term decisions. So, yeah, I would try to sell off the players that Eric identifies as not good enough. And I mean, we're talking a large part of the squad, so whoever we can get rid of, we should. And in the meantime, instead of just giving average players big wages to bring them in, we should promote the youth. Now, obviously, it's going to be tricky, but we should just integrate them in and see how it goes.
Yeah, I agree with you, but like I said earlier, the likelihood is that we won't be in the top four next season, and
Nope.
which means there'll be even less money to spend
Mm,
on the squad next summer
mhm.
than there has been this summer. So it's going to get more and more difficult
But then
to.
I'll tell you what it would do, though. What it would do is it buys us time. It buys us time to set up a proper scouting network, and to do all the things that we've been lacking. And that's how you solve this problem. It's not by just chucking money at it. It's not by going for the big names. You need to make sure that the person above Eric and him, they're on the same page when it comes to identifying targets. And it doesn't always have to be the big name. It can be some obscure, unknown person from somewhere. But we need to get it right. We need to start bringing them in. They need to be the right profile and caliber of player. the attitude as well, mentality, and all of that stuff comes into it as well, and that needs to be right.
Yeah, it's going to be a long, bumpy road ahead.
Yeah,
Even if by some miracle between now and the end of the month we brought in Frankie De Jong, Adrian Rabiot, and Cody Gagpo from PSV, if we brought in all those players, I think we're in such a desperate situation right now. They wouldn't be able to do much about it. Um, I,
no,
I still think that we're going to lose a lot of games.
yeah, it would still take a hell of a lot of time. Yeah, if by some miracle the De Jong thing happened, I mean, everyone's bored of this saga now. It's dragged on all summer. I mean, we're gonna part with the best part of 100 million. He comes in and he's not really gonna like solve anything immediately. He really isn't.
No, I just hope that it means that none of Fred or McTominay will be in the lineup. Um,
Yeah,
could you like Ten Hag definitely made a few mistakes yesterday as well. Um, the substitutions were utterly baffling.
mm,
He just we needed the, I don't know, maybe it was Dama's limitation, bringing on defenders at halftime. That's fair enough. I would have brought on the likes of Garnacho, but could you understand why he brought on Scott McTominay at halftime? What was
I
that all about?
I don't really know. I don't really know. It's a bit baffling as well if you're looking to shore things up after going 4-0 down. Um, but yeah, what can I say?
And
His subs in the Brighton game as well. I was a bit annoyed in the Brighton game that the subs came a bit later than I would have liked them to.
yeah,
But apparently this is a thing with him. I've spoken to one or two Ajax fans, and they said that he's a bit late with subs.
and that's exactly what Solskjaer was like as well. um, yeah, he made three subs in the 89th minute against Brighton. I don't. What
Yeah.
was that all about? Yeah, and yesterday, yeah, I did. I can understand maybe Varane and Malacia coming on to maybe for Dama's limitation, but
Mm.
McTominay didn't get that. He should have brought on just give Garner a chance or something. And Donny, yeah,
Absolutely.
and Donny on the 86th minute again. It's like all
Yeah.
he's in the dugout. It's just
Yeah.
absurd.
Yeah, I'm so confused by the Donny situation. You'd think out of all the managers, this would be the one that would give him a chance.
I know.
So I just wonder if there's something that we're not seeing. I don't know because it's happened way too often now under three different managers. It's crazy.
Yeah, if it's not going to happen under Ten Hag, it's
Yeah.
never going to happen for him at Old
Yeah.
Trafford.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
that's all very worrying. Another thing to touch on, Ralph. A lot of the things Ralph called out, it's all coming to light now. Some home truths that people didn't want to hear.
yeah, the open heart surgery and the fact that we needed 10 new players, he
Yes,
wasn't wrong about
yes,
that.
yes. And if you look at some of the players that he recommended as well during his time here, we haven't picked up any of them. They've all gone on to better things.
Yeah, only United could recruit one of the best football directors
Mm.
in Europe and put him in the dugout. Uh,
Exactly. It's crazy because even when he came in, that was the thing that a lot of us were getting excited about. It wasn't anything he did managerially. He was a bang average as a manager, but yeah, overseeing projects, that was his forte. Why would you not take that on? Why would you not do that? And then if you don't want him, fair enough, and you've spoken to Eric and maybe you want to take it in a different direction, fine. But go and find somebody else who's best in that position, who's got the credentials to come into a club like this. Why are people learning on the job at a club of our size? It makes no sense.
yeah, and anyone who calls out the club, like Mourinho,
Mm,
Nicky Butt, Ralf Rangnick, they're all gone.
yeah.
It is just commonplace now. You can't. I imagine Lou Macari won't be invited back on the MUTV after what he said the other day on the channel about Adrian Rabiot. He was scathing of that signing, and the presenter that normally toes the party line, he didn't really
Yeah.
know what to do in that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. Uh,
um, yeah,
But yeah, no, honestly, that would be a hot mess because, like, we've just ended the Pogba stuff, and Pogba is a way more talented player than Rabiot, and we couldn't get the best out of him. Why we would now take a punt on Rabiot to do the same kind of nonsense? I just don't understand it. And then the audacity of his mother as well to demand Champions League football and want more money, well, I mean, maybe your son should work on becoming a first team regular first.
Yeah, I mean, she just seems like another Mina Raiola, to be honest. That's the last thing we need.
Yeah, and then Icardi, you know what? Yeah, that's a mess as well because his missus is his agent. And there's a whole, yeah. Let's not even get into that situation. That's proper messy, proper Real Housewives kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've read a few stories about him over the years. It's
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So if those two came in, I just could you imagine? Because I mean, the leaks and stuff that was happening at the club, it was like a reality show all of last year. And these are the last kind of people that we'd want coming in to add to it. And then also there was the rumors of Arnautovic as well. Actually, not even rumors. I think there was a rejected bid, wasn't there?
yeah, there was. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that whole saga was absolutely embarrassing, and
Yeah,
and
that was crazy as well because it came out that he had racially abused a player. I'm like, wow, okay, so is this the kind of guy that we want to associate with? And he's 33 and way past his prime. Just again,
yeah,
another short-term fix.
there was an accusation from a female player at West Ham that he used to interrupt the training sessions and mock the female players there as well.
Oh
Or not?
wow. So yeah, this is why we need to do our due diligence. And it's more than just about on-field ability. You need to really, especially, and you'd think United would be on top of that, especially with the issues that we've had with our number 11s.
Yeah, I mean,
You'd think they would look into this sort of thing.
they clearly don't do their due diligence on any player. I mean, a quick Google search could have told them about Arnautovic's reputation in the game.
Yeah,
I just it's
yeah.
and
And
then
then
and
what the really sad thing for me, Carl, is the fact that as much as we criticize these guys, on paper they would make our squad stronger. So that just goes to show you how bad our squad is.
I know I think I said last week that I could see a purpose for Arnautovic if he did come in, on a
Yeah,
footballing sense.
in a
Yeah.
footballing sense, listen, he can link up play. He can, you can hold things up. He'll be a target man. There's things that he can do that Ronaldo can't really do. And Martial, his best position is the one he's currently occupying in the medical room. So what are we doing? We obviously need bodies in. So in that sense, yes, it would have improved us. But yeah, these are the kind of things we need to avoid. We need to look at people's character and all of the rest of that stuff as well.
Yeah, and another player who's been an absolute disaster in the last 9 months or so is Bruno Fernandes. It just
Yeah,
there's no sign of his pathetic form coming to an end. He does
no.
deserve to start. I would rather now, just pick Ericsson at number
The
10.
worrying thing for me, Carl, is that a lot of his performances for me, I wouldn't say the performances overall have dipped all that much, but the one thing we're not seeing now are the goals and assists. So now that we're not seeing the stats, you're really seeing the flaws. Whereas before that was somewhat camouflaged by the goals and assists he was getting.
Yeah, there was. He would try the Hollywood ball all the time, give the ball
Yeah.
away a lot.
Listen, we saw it yesterday, the shot from nowhere straight over the bar.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and to touch on Bruno Fernandes as well, this is another thing. I think we did touch on it at the time when his contract extension. Was there any need to extend his contract? He had 3 years remaining on his current deal at the time, and you offered him this renewal of a 5-year deal before the new managers come in. Why do that? Why not just wait until the manager's in place? And then he can decide if he even wants this player. Because now, if he decides that this player is not for him, it's even harder to get rid of him because he's on bonkers wages.
yeah. I think probably his agent was demanding more money. To fit. He's only been
Yeah,
his first contract. He was only on 120 grand a week or something. And
yeah. Listen, from the agent's point of view, I totally understand. I understand. If I was his agent, I'd probably do the same thing. But the club holds all the cards. You don't have to give in to that demand. You can tell the player, listen, and his agent, listen, you've got 3 years left. You're not going anywhere, mate. And we're gonna wait until the new manager comes in, and then we'll decide. And then, if you're a key part of his plans, we can renegotiate. If not, you're just gonna have to hold tight. Like player power only exists if you allow it to. Look at the blueprint set out by clubs like Bayern Munich. No player is bigger than that club. They don't bend their wage structure for anyone. David Alaba, when his contract was running down, probably at the time, one of the best left backs in the world. He converted into a centre back now. Multi-talented, he can fit in a few positions. He demanded crazy wages, and they said bye bye.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what I'm worried about with regards to Rashford. I think his brother, who's his agent, is the
Mm.
one who probably put out this story about him being linked to PSG, and probably it was a maneuver to try and get United to offer him a new contract. And
Yeah,
I'm, I'm
ridiculous.
I'm terrified that United will capitulate now and give Rashford a new 5-year deal and a pay
Ridiculous.
rise.
Oh, absolutely not. I think he's on like 280, Carl, which is madness in itself. For especially for what he's producing, he can't get that. I'm sorry, but no. Even when if they sit down to renegotiate, they need to have a serious chat and be like, listen, we both know that you're not currently playing at the level that warrants these type of wages. You're gonna have to like take half, or we're gonna have to let you go. It's one of those ones.
Yeah, what United should be doing if they're offered good money from PSG, they should take it. But I'm afraid
Exactly.
United will do one of two things. They'll either give
Yeah.
him a new deal, or he'll end up leaving the club for nothing, like Lingard.
Yeah, this is my worry as well, which is why if the offer from PSG had any truth, I would snap their hand off because I can very seriously see a situation in which he just stays and runs his contract down and leaves for free.
Yeah, we seem to do that quite a lot. We let the contracts run down and we get absolutely no money for these players. I mean,
Way too much, way too much. I also saw an interesting graph today that showed wages club to club, and guess who's at the top of that? We pay the most in wages in the league. It's crazy. We're
and
first, Chelsea is second, then Liverpool, and Man City are a bit further down actually, and they pay a hell of a lot less than we do. And when you look at the contrast on the pitch, it's an absolute what's the word?
we're not in the same league as Man City anymore. I mean,
It's
with
disgraceful, isn't it? It's absolutely disgraceful.
the might as well be in a different division.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's what last Sunday, that's what depressed me more. Obviously, the Brighton result, I was gutted, and then for some reason, I decided to watch the Man City West Ham game, and then seeing the football they were playing, and especially going from watching Luke Shaw and Dallo to Cancelo and Kyle Walker. Yeah, it was depressing.
Yeah, and then when you watch our midfield, and then you see De Bruyne and Gundogan in full flight.
Listen, and you see Rodri, like do all kinds of stuff to retain ball possession and jumping out of the way of slide tackles and still keeping the ball. It's crazy.
Yeah, with 35 points behind them last season, it could be more
Mm.
this season. It really could.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you know, if these players don't sort the attitude out, we are going to be in a relegation battle. Yeah, it really is that bad. I mean, I don't
It.
see. I look at the fixture list. I don't see where United are going to pick up 3 points. I don't see it.
I really don't. I really don't at this moment in time. It's definitely not going to come in the next game. So after that, I think it's Leicester, isn't it?
Is it Southampton and then
Southampton.
yeah,
I thought we had Leicester after Liverpool. Okay.
Leicester? I think maybe after that, and then Arsenal.
Right. Okay. Okay.
We are screwed.
All right. So looking at the fixture, Southampton, realistically, we
But I wouldn't. People, some United fans might say, "Yeah, that's a 3-pointer," but I wouldn't bank on it. I really wouldn't.
I mean,
You know,
yeah, because that is a club I had down to struggle this season. Them Wolves, Everton.
yeah, and
Um,
apparently Southampton have done it. Their players have done a United, and they've turned on their manager.
mm,
Um, apparently they've lost faith in Ralph Hasenhüttl's methods. So there's like similarities there between United and Southampton. But we do not
yeah,
have a great record on St Mary's in recent times, from what I can remember.
mm, yeah.
It's
Let me get the fixture list up.
yeah. So this is going to be very easy this week. You usually do a rundown of the player ratings. Now let me just get started on that one. Not. okay, maybe I've been a bit harsh on Christian Eriksen. I thought he was okay in spells. You know, he's a very creative player, and I
Yeah,
would rather see him in at number 10 instead of Bruno
he's playing a
Fernandes.
lot deeper than I'd like.
Yeah,
Also, there's a bit too much pressure on him as well. And I always said that he's a fantastic option to bring in as a rotation option, who offers a lot of experience. But if he's going to be our main man, then a lot of people are in for a shock.
yeah, I would. Yeah, well, yes, we've already identified that we're going to lose to Liverpool, but and that's almost a given. But I do have some ideas as to what I would like to see in terms of the lineup changes for next week. One of the first things I would do, and not everybody will agree with me here, I would bring in Tom Heaton for the next few games, because I'm getting really concerned now by David Gue's form, and to add insult to injury, Dean Henderson has a blinder against West Ham today, saving the penalty, keeping
Yeah,
a clean sheet. Um, that's he's talking like a guy who never wants to play for Man United again, even though he's still on the books at United. Um, it's that, like you said earlier, it's a situation. The goalkeeping situation is going to have to be resolved in next summer. I think. I don't think
yeah.
if Ten Hag is still here, that I don't think De Gea can survive 2 months longer. It's a
No,
bit like
no, I don't think he can.
it's a bit like the Guardiola and Joe Hart situation. It, if we had Man City type money to spend on the team,
Mm.
I think Ten Hag would have got rid of De Gea already. That's in my opinion.
Probably, probably.
Um, I think I would definitely bring in Varane as well next week. I am totally my mind is totally boggled by why he's sitting on the bench when Maguire is starting and Martinez has had a bit of a ropey start to his
Yeah.
United career. It doesn't make sense to have a guy who was the best defender in the world at Real Madrid. What is he doing? Backing up Maguire and Martinez. It doesn't make any sense. So I would definitely bring him back in. Hopefully, there's a new sign in midfield who can slot in instead of Fred. And I know Ericsson. I would play him at number 10 and bring Fernandez out of the team.
Mm.
Sancho obviously has to play.
Uh,
Ronaldo has to
up
play.
front, there's a lot of issues as well. It's just they're like
It's not
strangers up top.
Yeah, there are not many options there either. I don't,
No.
I'm trying to think of someone who could play instead of Rashford. I personally would just give Garnacho a go, but I don't see the manager doing that. Do
Mm.
you?
No, I don't see him doing that. But at this point, I mean, we'll have to wait and see, I suppose, what happens until the window closes. Um, there was Memphis Depay is available for free. I hear Juventus are close to getting him. He's a player that I would look at just
Well,
because he's very versatile. He can play across any of the front three positions. On a free transfer, I would not mind taking a punt because we're so short staffed everywhere.
well, you'd think that if Ten Hag was a fan of Memphis Depay, he would have went in for him already.
Yeah.
He went for Arnautovic before he went for Depay, so that
Yeah.
doesn't tell me he's a fan of the player.
No, it doesn't, does it? Yeah, and I think it's one of those where, as fans, we look at it from the outside, going, well, and he's Dutch as well. Maybe there's a connection there,
We've also been linked with a Espanol striker today. Is it Raúl de Tomas? He has a pretty decent scoring record for Espanol. I think he was at Real Madrid at one stage. I think he got 17 La Liga goals last season and 36 appearances. So there's certainly an option.
I don't know too much about him. I'll have to do some research into that one.
Yeah, he's 27 now, I think.
So what kind of fee are they asking for?
25 to 30 million euros.
Okay.
I think is what the quoted figure.
Yeah.
He seems to have a pretty good goal scoring record considering he's in a fairly mediocre team. So
the Benjamin Sesko one, we saw how that played out. And you'll remember from when we chatted, when United were linked with him, they were quoting 50 million. He made the move to Red Bull Leipzig for 24 million euros, works out to be just over 20 million pounds. And they've loaned him back as well to Salzburg, so he arrives next summer once he continues his development. And Leipzig have went and got in Timo Werner this year. Obviously, he had a terrible time at Chelsea, but in the Bundesliga, he is a proven quantity. and Christopher Nkunku has a 60 million euro release clause next summer. And what they've done is they've effectively just done their recruitment already, so that they are prepared for that loss. And this is how competent teams operate.
Well, it wouldn't have been an easy. It would have been a very easy transfer to do, considering the two clubs have the same owner.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's all under the Red Bull Group, isn't it? But still, I mean, that's how good business is done.
Yeah, and Nkunku is someone that Ranić is a big fan of, so that tells me United won't be in for him. The striker I'm just talking about there from Espanyol, Raúl de Thomas, in the Segunda division 2 seasons ago, he got 23 in 37, and last season in La Liga, he got 17 in 34. So in 17 and 36 across all competitions.
So he came up through the Real Madrid academy. And he was at Benfica as well before Espanyol. Okay.
That's right, yeah. He's been at Real Vallecano as well.
Yeah.
He never made it Real Madrid, obviously. He played for Real Madrid B, and then
he's really only had 3 seasons in La Liga. And this past season was his best season. That's the one that stands out numbers wise.
Yeah. If he's a backup option, it seems like a plan.
I mean, to be fair, we're in a position where we just need bodies. We just need fit players. So anyone coming in is going to improve us, really. It's one of those. But then this is one where you think, he's 27 as well. What's his resale value going to be like? What kind of wages is he going to be on? Is he going to be difficult to shift in a year or two? Like, we're an absolute mess. Like, why has Alex Telles gone on loan? Especially when we know Sevilla are sitting on that Jules Koundé money.
Yeah, absolutely baffling. Sevilla have just been taking the mick out of us in the last 6 months or so.
Yeah, so that's my one concern with signings like this Raúl Thomas guy. We may use him for 1 year, and then are we going to be stuck with him? Whereas if you were to plan long term, and had you went and got a Sesko, I wouldn't have minded spending this kind of money. 25 to 30 million. Even if Sesko didn't come in now and you just left him on loan at Salzburg for a year, it would have made more sense to me. Long-term suffering, short-term suffering for long-term gain.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to get. I think Benjamin Sesko is totally out the window now.
Yeah, that's gone. That's gone. I've heard links to Alvaro Morata.
Oh no! Don't even go there.
We saw what he could do, or what he couldn't do, should I say, at Chelsea. We've had a close-up look at him. So why we're in for him, I don't really know. I also don't see how he gets service in our team.
They won't. And he's a striker that needs 3 or 4 attempts to score.
Yeah, and he needs service. Like, I don't see... I just don't see it.
Yeah, that would be, again, just a panic buy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That'd be an option.
Yeah.
Just in the last few minutes, Alex Krug from TalkSport has said that Frankie de Jong will be a Manchester United player before the Liverpool game. That's a very, very bold prediction to make there.
Yeah, listen, I've just completely checked out, mate.
Yeah, listen, I feel the same way.
Listen, I'll tell you what, Carl. When the transfer window slams shut, we should do a stream straight after that.
Yeah. Or if he becomes a United player before that, then we'll talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, if he signs, then we'll talk about it. Until then, I don't want to think about him.
Yeah, I'm sick of all the rumors and counter rumors.
Yeah, and whilst you were doing that, I had a quick run through the fixture list. So after Liverpool, it's Southampton, then Leicester City, followed by Arsenal, then Crystal Palace, Leeds, and then Man City. And that takes us into October. It's difficult. I don't really see where the points are going to come from. I'll be honest with you.
I don't. I don't fancy us to beat any team in the Premier League. Probably wouldn't fancy us to beat anyone in the Championship either.
Southampton and Leicester, you'd think, we really need to get some points there. Arsenal, the form they're in at the moment, yeah, we're going to get battered. Gabriel Jesus will have a field day. Crystal Palace is a difficult place to go.
Now we'd be turned over at Crystal Palace quite easily as
Yeah,
well. I think.
and Jesse March and Leeds are, you don't know what you're going to get there, but they've started off all right. Then Man City.
What happens if we lose the bulk of those games? What there's no transfer window open or anything by that stage. What are they going to do?
I mean, listen, we could be, and the season it comes to an end second week of November, doesn't it? So yeah, because the World Cup starts on the 20th of November. So yeah, I think end of October. Yeah,
the 12th of November I think is the last game.
Right. Okay. 12th of November we play Fulham.
No, we're not winning that either. So just moving on to the Ronaldo situation. He noticed that a lot of his teammates were getting stick yesterday when they were going over to acknowledge the fans. So he stopped and walked back towards the tunnel.
Yeah.
Apparently Steve McLaren tried to encourage him to go to acknowledge the fans. Is there now public mutiny now from Ronaldo?
For me, I think this is all a bit of a distraction. I think the real blame should be on the owners, and that's where all of our attention should go. All this stuff about Ronaldo, I honestly don't care, to be honest. This is a player who's not going to be here in 12 months' time.
Do you think the board are putting stories out about Ronaldo to distract?
It absolutely wouldn't surprise me if they wanted to distract us with this kind of nonsense to take away from what they're doing, which is the real problem. And until we fix the core issue, nothing's going to change. So from now on, that's where I would really like everyone to point their attention.
And apparently, according to sources inside the dressing room, United players are not happy with Ronaldo's attitude because he's walking around with a sulk look on his face in the last few weeks. So again, it seems to be his teammates are leaking stories against him. Like we saw last season.
Yeah.
It's
for me, the writing was kind of on the wall when he didn't go to the preseason tour. It is what it is. He's only there now because nobody wants him. It's kind of difficult to get out of that contract, and we are so bad at doing business that for John Murtough, it's just another headache getting another striker in. So yeah, that's the only reason he's there. It's because of our incompetence.
And if Ronaldo ends up still being here when the window's shut, we'll have one very unhappy player on our hands. It doesn't seem like it's going to help with improving the mood inside the dressing room, and it's not going to make things easier for Ten Hag.
It's not. But at the same time, if the transfer window slams shut and he's still here, then he needs to just get on with it, I suppose. You saw what happened with Harry Kane last year, where he was quite distraught at not getting his Man City move. And it all started a bit slow for him, but then he got into the groove of things and just knuckled down.
Yeah, well, to make Ronaldo's sulking worth it this season, he needs to score a lot of goals.
Yes, that's the thing. That's the thing. The temper tantrums, the attitude, all else will be overlooked if you do your job, which is to score.
Yesterday, he had chances and he didn't score, and you could see.
Kind of snatched at it. There was one of the headers I thought he could have done a bit better, but there was half.
He was beating the ground in frustration.
Yeah,
the cynic in me says that he was only interested in improving his stats yesterday. He was desperate to get on the score sheet because he wants to, score as many goals as possible in his career.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really worried about United winning or losing.
But again, Carl, that goes back to the club, mate. That these are the kind of things you should have looked at before you bring in a certain player of profile, a certain profile of player.
Yeah. And the worrying thing that's come out today is, and I know it's only a report, but it's very easy to believe that Joe Glazer doesn't want to lose Ronaldo because of his importance commercially. And
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. If you go onto the website right now, you click on the merchandise page, you look at all of our shirts. Guess whose number is number one on there? Even in
yeah,
that disgusting, horrible kit that we were in yesterday, like, yeah, who's advertising it? Ronnie.
yeah, yeah. What was bizarre yesterday? It felt as if I was watching Brentford against Celtic. At times, it was.
I'll
It was
tell you what, that kit is looking a lot brighter than our future. I'll tell you that.
yeah. I'm surprised we didn't hear that the kit was clashing with the grass, so we need to change the kit
Yeah,
at half time.
I was expecting something like that to come out because I'm not going to lie, when I was watching the game, especially as the sun was beaming down, it did kind of blend in a little bit.
Yeah, I have thought that it'd come out in white for the second half, but didn't.
Yeah, flashback to the 90s. You remember the
Yeah,
grey kit? Yeah.
yeah. Well, if that's the way we're going to be playing in that kit, then let's not wear it again.
Mm,
But I don't think it really matters what kit we wear. We're
no.
absolutely shite,
Yeah.
and we're going to lose most games. But looks of things, I mean, the bare minimum you need from any footballer is effort and commitment and passion, and we have
Yep.
absolutely none of that. They just don't
Yep.
give a fiddlers.
They don't. They don't. I think this is the other thing as well. I think obviously because we're fans and we would give anything to be in their position, we see it slightly different. We need to understand as well. A lot of these guys, they just see this as a job.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt when they
No,
lose.
it doesn't hurt them. They probably go home and they sleep fine in their mansions and whatnot.
Yeah, somebody made a joke online that we know today that the day off was cancelled for the players, and rightly so. Somebody
Yeah.
made a joke saying, "Bad news for Luke Shaw. He had he had a big dinner booked for 1 o'clock today, so he had to cancel it." So,
Poor guy.
uh, yeah, it's he. I mean, he just doesn't get close to anybody.
Yeah, listen, he's not cut out for this. He should have
But
gone a long, long time ago.
he's starting to look like his body can't hold up to the pace of the Premier League.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and the physical demands.
Mm.
I noticed Malacia was getting a lot closer and blocking crosses, in the
Yeah,
second half.
yeah.
Whereas,
It won't be too long before Malacia is starting, surely.
and for the fourth goal, Luke Shaw was completely caught the wrong side there. And how
Yeah.
embarrassing was it? One long hoof up the pitch from Brentford, and we're cut open. It was,
Yeah, so easy to just break open. It's just, oh.
yeah, and see, Ten Hag just doesn't have the players to play his style of football, and
No.
and the goalkeeper obviously an issue, and then Harry Maguire's lack of pace is another issue. You can't play a high
Yeah,
line
yeah.
and a slow. You can't play a slow defense with a high line.
And this was, well, if you think back, this was initially the problem when Ralph came in. Do you remember? Because he tried to do that 4-2-2 thing, and we just didn't have the players for that. And a couple games down the line, he realized that as well and reverted back to how it was before. Yeah. So I can totally understand Ten Hag wanting to implement his style, but if he hasn't got the tools, it's very difficult to do that.
Yeah, yeah, it's just a mishmash of players that have been signed by 5 or 6 different managers,
Yeah,
and
that's the thing. We've still got players from every era over the last decade. We've got players from every manager in the last decade. It's crazy.
yeah, Fergie's signing is obviously De Gea. I think
Yeah,
is he
yeah,
the
yeah.
only
Phil
one?
Jones as well. Well, we
Yeah,
don't see Phil Jones, but
yeah, we won't see him once a year, but
yeah,
yeah, De Gea, I think he's had his day, to be honest.
yeah,
He's as many people have said, he's a goalkeeper from a bygone era. He's
yeah.
the top teams all have goalkeepers who are great at distributing the ball out. He is not. He has 2 left feet.
Mm,
And he demonstrated again yesterday. He makes poor decisions when the ball is his feet too.
hmm.
And then if he's not even going to keep the ball out of the back of the net with his hand, then what's the point? You know.
Yeah.
I would just give Tom Heaton a go at this point. He couldn't possibly be any worse.
I mean, I
Yeah,
don't because it's Liverpool. I don't, I don't know if that's the game to bring him in for.
yeah, but we're going to lose that game anyway, aren't we? I
Yeah,
mean, it's
we
just
are. I mean, it's gonna be. Yeah, it's a question of how many, isn't it? How depressing is that? Is that? God.
yeah. Do you think there's a chance that Ten Hag might revert to the old 5-4-1 here and try go for damage limitation?
I, don't- I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know how we're going to set up to counter any of their threats. It's going to be
Yeah,
crazy.
I think if we just go out and defend, I think they'll beat us anyway. So
Yeah.
good point. Yeah. So was there anything else at all that you wanted to talk about with regards to United?
No. The main thing is just where the blame really lies and looking at the core, deep-seated issues.
Yeah, Gary Neville is absolutely spot on in his analysis. But it's took him a long time to come to this epiphany. The
Yeah.
fans have been telling them that it wasn't Woodward, it wasn't anyone else. It was the Glazers that were at fault. But finally, he's
Yeah.
arrived.
I mean, obviously, Woodward and the rest of them, they're all to blame as well, but they're all symptoms of the virus. You need to just deal with this
yeah,
from its root.
and I think we're naive to think that Richard Arnold was going to be different to Ed Woodward. He's different in the sense that he'll meet fans in the pub, but
How ridiculous does that whole thing seem now?
yeah, and every single thing he promised that day, none of it has happened.
Yeah. I mean, so at the time, I remember because there was a few people questioning whether it was the whole thing was set up or not. Either way, I thought it was quite shambolic. I mean, if it was real and it leaked out, then you kind of just stop that kind of thing from happening in the first place, or in future any kind of fan interaction. And secondly, yeah, to just openly say, oh yeah, we've got the money, we're sat on it. When that gets out, obviously people are going to demand more for their players.
Yeah, sure. Woodward made that mistake as well. He said,
Yeah.
He said we got money to spend that other clubs can only dream of.
Yeah, Ollie made the mistake as well. I think it was during COVID when he was interviewed by Sky, and he said, "Yeah, we're in a position to act." It was the summer where Donny came in and nobody else.
Yeah, and that's why they've signed very few players this summer because they're getting charged the United tax. Because
Yeah, I mean, listen, look at Lissandro Martinez, right? Had we acted at the beginning of the window, I'm pretty sure you could have got it for half that price. Obviously, you waited around, then Arsenal came in as well, which meant there was a bidding war. If we're being honest with ourselves, Lissandro Martinez is probably a 25 to 30 million pound player that we've ended up paying 57 million for.
Are you worried he's going to be another Rojo, or is it too early?
It's too you know, I'm depressed enough as it is. I'd rather not entertain that thought just yet.
Yeah, and I think Dallo is absolutely awful as well. He can't defend, and he doesn't offer much on the other end of the pitch either.
No, he doesn't, and neither does the other guy. So who do we take him off for? And then the one dude I thought we might get a look in is Ethan Laird, but it's loan settings for him.
Why? Why wasn't he just given a chance?
I have no idea. In the predicament we're in, and if you're going to be this slow in the market and not going to bother to bring anyone in, why not give the lad a chance?
Yeah, because he couldn't be any worse than them other
two. Yeah.
I seen someone on Twitter yesterday saying that whenever Dallo plays a run of games, I'm like, I want Wan-Bissaka to come back in, and then Wan-Bissaka plays a run of games, I want Dallo to come back in.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. You think one's got to be lesser of the two evils, and they're just bad. They're both just bad.
Yeah, both of them are just nowhere near the level required to be.
Yeah, and it's really it's depressing as well because the back five for me is the area of the team where you should see the least amount of change. Like, I don't like chopping and changing the back four. Like, you should always have a settled defense.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we had in the glory days.
Yeah, and everyone knows who the settled, who the first teamers are, and then the ones that do come in can do a job. But now with this, it's anyone's guess, isn't it? It's just a roulette wheel every other week of trying different partnerships and it failing. Well, the one common anomaly is that Maguire's still there. Oh,
fuck off.
it's tiring now, isn't it? Like, I'm tired of talking about it. I mean, we've seen him next to Lindelof, we've seen him next to Bailly, we've seen him next to Varane, we've seen him now with Martinez. What more do we need to see?
And you see him yesterday having a go at his teammates, and they weren't even
Yeah,
listening to him.
yeah.
They don't hold much respect for him as a captain. So
Yeah.
I think Ten Hag got it wrong. Firstly, by making De Gea his number one and sticking with Maguire as captain. I think he should have went for Henderson and made someone else captain of the football club, like Ronaldo, for example, or Varane, whoever.
I think the De Gea one, it might well have been due to the fact that, with how our club operates, they probably wouldn't have been able to shift him this summer, and they're probably looking at the wages he's on. I have a feeling what's going to happen is next summer we'll release him for free and just bring back Henderson based on how he does at Nottingham Forest this year, and then he'll get at least one season before we look at the goalkeeping department.
If he wants to, because he was tired of the broken promises that happened under Solskjaer.
He was, but at the same time, there is no obligation to buy or option. So whether he likes it or not, he's coming back. And then if we get rid of De Gea next season, then it might be a different story. I think Dean might be a lot easier to convince. I don't even think you need to convince him, really. He comes back. If you play him, he's going to play.
Yeah, because they can't trigger the extension on De Gea's contract because they can't sell him. No one's going to pay those wages.
Yeah, no one's going to pay that wages. So you can't take up the option of extending it because he is the highest paid goalkeeper in the world. It's madness. So the only way is to offload him, is to release him. Because it's a situation where even if somebody by some miracle was interested this year, we would end up paying a large part of the wages to subsidize it.
Yeah, but we're talking, common sense here. Common sense and United's board don't go together.
Yeah, that's true. You can refer back to the Alex Telles deal. Why we're paying part of his wages at his age and sending him on loan is anybody's guess.
Yeah, what's next? They're going to loan out Eric Bailly now as well.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. It's another crazy one.
He's not even getting into the match day squad, so surely he's going to go.
Yeah, he's got to go. He's got to go. If he's there, you got to play. Because the thing, he looked all right to me in preseason. The thing with Bailly has always been his injuries and his fitness. Like when he actually plays, it's he's a half useful player.
Yeah, and I would sell Lindelof as well. He's nowhere near good enough to be a United centre back, but he's another person who inexcusably got a new contract when it was totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
And
it's a question of time, isn't it? A lot of these players need to go. We just have to wait and see in what order it happens. But yeah, at some point, I can't see it looking the same in the next year or two. Surely a lot of this has to change.
And another case where we got it wrong in terms of the recruitment was when we had the chance to buy Moise Caicedo for £5 million, and we let him go to Brighton.
And yeah, and apparently now we're interested in him.
I heard that earlier, yeah. But I mean, what are Brighton going to quote for him?
I mean, listen, he went there for about $4.5 million. It's criminal that we didn't sign him.
Yeah, and completely dominated McTominay. Last week. Just McTominay and Fred and Rashford and Bruno, they just annoy me now. Maguire as well. Just Luke Shaw. They actually, do you know when you're watching a game and we've capitulated again, we're 3 or 4-0 down, you start to get angry at even seeing their faces on TV. You're just like, piss off.
It's gotten to the point where I'm just kind of numb to it now. Like, it's just you think, can it get any worse? And they tell you that it can. And they show you that it can.
I know. I'm just staggered by how little they actually care, and they've been getting criticism for over a year now about their attitude, and people calling them mercenaries, and they're not even offended by that. It seems.
I mean, listen. If you tell somebody the same thing week in, week out, eventually they're gonna, it's not gonna mean anything to them. They're just gonna become desensitized. The only thing we can do is actually get rid of them and move them on, which this club don't do. Look at the way Chelsea operate, right? Even under perceived shambles or whatever under their takeover. If it was us that paid 97 million on Lukaku, we would have still been sat on him. They couldn't get rid of him by way of a transfer, but they knew that they didn't want him. And what did they do? They loaned him out. They found a way to shift him off the books, at least for a year, wages wise. And that's how you have to move. You have to be ruthless. You have to be cutthroat.
And we are none of those things.
Yeah.
He's dither and dither and dither.
Yeah,
give out contracts
and obviously it's not all gone to plan for Chelsea because they are missing out on targets because the players are going elsewhere and whatnot. But at least they're trying.
Yeah. Chelsea are so lucky. They've had Abramovich and now they have Todd Burley. We're saddled with the Glazers who take money out of the club.
Yeah.
It's just.
And this guy, I mean, you can tell he's very casual with his checkbook. 62 million for Cucurella. It's crazy money if you ask me.
Yeah, they're well overpaid there, but he's very, very good attacking left back there.
Yeah.
And he started today.
I think the other two I was very impressed with. I think those are both good deals. The Koulibaly one and the Raheem Sterling one.
Yeah, what about that Koulibaly volley from the corner?
Yeah. For the price they got him for as well. I know he's 31, but
another thing to mention. He went 3 years ago. He was available, and we went for Harry Maguire instead.
Went for Harry Maguire instead. Yeah, it's crazy.
If we can make a mistake, if there's a
I'll
mistake
tell you what,
made,
we'll make it. It's Sod's law, isn't it? I'll tell you what. At the time, it was De Ligt was the one that I wanted at the time because he was 19. He was captaining Ajax. And my thought process was that even if he doesn't live up to the billing, because of his age and potential, he will always retain value. So in 3 years' time, he's not massively going to dip. Whereas with Maguire, now he's on the verge of 30, he's on big wages. It's going to be a big loss.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's happened because with De Ligt, he didn't set the world alight at Juve, but he still got to move to Bayern Munich.
Yeah. Other clubs would be ruthless with Maguire and just
they have
to.
They would cut their losses. I mean, listen, I will take 20 million. Get rid. If it moves us closer to what Ten Hag wants to do, get rid. You can't just keep faith in people just because.
Yeah, the owners only care about numbers, and if they see we paid 80 million for him and you're asking us to sell him for 20 million, no way. We're not taking the loss. That's the way they look at it. They don't look at it from a footballing point of view.
But it's crazy though, because if he stays, you're taking an even bigger loss, and ultimately he's going to leave for free. So you recoup none of it back, because that was my main issue with Pogba, right? Because with a year left on his contract, Paul Pogba in the open market would still have got you, if we're lowballing, like 40 to 50 million. Now, if you were to sell him for that with a year left on his contract, that means you had Pogba for about 5 years for a net spend of about 40 million, which isn't bad.
Yeah, and we've talked about it a few times already.
Yeah,
they could have got a fee for Lingard as well.
Absolutely, that was criminal, especially after the form he showed at West Ham. You definitely could have got at least 20 million minimum.
Yeah, at the very least, here in the last couple of weeks of the window, they have to get 20 million for Agbaye. If they don't do that, I just give up.
I'm not expecting that much, to be fair. I'll be happy with 10. I'll take 10 to 15. I'll be happy with.
And then they need to look at selling maybe Wan-Bissaka as well if they can, or somebody else.
Yeah, Wan-Bissaka. Yeah, he needs to go. I was hoping Crystal Palace would come in, but they went and got that Richards guy from Bayern. Yeah, and they're doing a bit more competent business. So unless it was a loan deal, I can't see anyone coming in for Wan-Bissaka.
If they get Cody Gakpo from PSV and they're offered ridiculous money by PSG for Rashford, do you think there's a chance they might take it? I don't think so.
I don't think there is. But yeah, I think we're clutching at straws, mate. I think we're stuck with Rashford.
Yeah, we're stuck with too many of them. That's the problem.
Yeah, and with Gakpo as well. Obviously, the fee, I don't know, because they're through to the next round. I think they play Rangers to qualify for the Champions League. So
That's right. Yeah,
if they make Champions League, then they're in a they're in a position to hold out for more money.
definitely.
The player will take some convincing too, and I'm also not sold on just buying all these players from Holland.
No, I'm not
The
either.
likes of Van Nistelrooy and Stam were the exceptions to the rule, coming straight out of Holland.
Yeah, I think the only thing we can hope for is if there's another disastrous season incoming, which seems to be the case, that hopefully the finances will be so bad next summer that the Glazers will just give up and sell. At that point, lots of people are convinced that they will do that next summer. Because the income is going to dry up. The value of the club is going down.
But this is where my concerns about what Barcelona are doing come into play, because knowing these owners, they'll probably find ways to sell the naming rights to our stadium, and sell off various bits and pieces to make up the cash flow losses, which is my concern. Because we have to understand, like, for them, this is just an asset in their portfolio, an asset which they can use as leverage at any time to take out any kind of loan for any of their other ventures or business interests. They can always use it to back. They can always use United to back it up, and so in that sense, it's a very valuable asset to have, and one that they're not putting any money into themselves. So they're just happy to just keep it there ticking along. So unless they get a ridiculous offer, I can't see them going.
Yeah, well,
and the more I think about it, the trouble is with these oil-rich billionaire tycoon owners. The trouble is they can live out that rags to riches fantasy for a lot less at other places. Like, it would take such a monumental amount. Like, because Chelsea sold for what, 4.25 billion, yeah? How much do you think the Glazers would want for United?
Well, given the value of the club apparently is only 1.5 billion,
Yeah,
probably get more than that.
And similar to how Chelsea, like how Barcelona are dealing with Frankie de Jong's wages situation, I reckon these lot will probably ask any potential buyer to cover all of the debt as well.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think when United were doing better, they would have wanted maybe 5 billion. I think they would probably take 4 now. I think.
But even that, Carl. So let's break that down. Yeah. So in order to live out the rags to riches billionaire fantasy, right? They can buy a mid-tier club for, say, outright for, say, under 500 million, and then they can put about 1 billion into it over the course of 5 to 10 years in order to get them up the table and where they need to be. So, for half the price that it would cost to buy United, you can live out that Man City dream.
Yeah, but didn't Jim Ratcliffe bid 4 billion for Chelsea? So he's willing to pay that amount of money. So, let's see. I certainly don't believe in this other consortium. I don't think that's a realistic.
No, I don't think. Yeah, I have no faith in that. I've paid no attention to that this week.
Yeah. The less said about that, the better. He's get into a bit of a dispute with another fan channel. So I don't, because they basically don't believe that he has the money, and he's now saying he's going to sue them for libel or something like that. So, a bit crazy.
He's a bit of a mental dude anyway. I didn't pay that too much mind.
Yeah, I don't believe that's realistic.
No.
If he had the money, or his consortium had the money, he wouldn't be calling on Jim Ratcliffe to get involved.
You wouldn't be on all these sites talking like this. You just get it done.
Yeah, definitely. So what are you going to say?
I was just going to say, people with the finances, they don't really talk too much. They just go and do it.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. If only the government could just seize United like they did Chelsea and then create an auction.
Well, funny enough, the thing is, obviously there was that, the really interesting thing about the Chelsea deal. was that there was specifically an anti-Glazer clause. Like, you cannot take over a club now the way that ours was taken over. Like, that is a thing of the past. That cannot happen.
Yeah, and that is even more depressing.
Yeah,
Yeah, how the Glazers met the fit and proper persons test, I'll never know. Absolutely ridiculous. You shouldn't be allowed to purchase a club with money that's not yours. I mean, you either show you've got the cash, or you don't have it. If you're having to take out a £600 million loan to purchase a club, you shouldn't be allowed to buy it. But they've come to that epiphany far too late for us United fans, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it is what it is. At least others have learned from our mistakes.
Yeah, but our nightmare rumbles on. But you get a lot of like people who don't support United who might be listening to us, and they'll say, "Oh, boo hoo! You haven't won the league since 2013. Who cares? And you're going through a bit of a downturn. You'll get over it."
You know what it is? Yeah, I kind of understand a little bit when people say that, but at the same time, you have to understand that everything's relative.
Yeah, I mean, our expectations are
Yeah,
far higher than
it's
Brentford
based
fans.
on our position and where we were. Like, I could totally understand someone being like, "Oh, boo-hoo, so you finished 6th, 7th, you're still in the Premier League. You don't know what it's like to go into liquidation or get relegated." But everyone has their problems. It's all relative to you and the club that you support.
Yeah, like for example, if you compare us to Brentford, what happened yesterday is Brentford's ceiling. Beating Man United 4-0 at home. That's the greatest day in the history of their club. For us, it's winning the treble. That's our ceiling. That's our greatest day in history. So yeah, it's all relative.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, so we'll wrap it up there for this week. Hopefully we'll be able to keep the score down at Old Trafford next Monday night, and it's not too much of a nightmare. But
fingers crossed.
Yeah, but Ten Hag seriously needs to make quite a few changes to that lineup, and hopefully maybe a new signing will be in the door at that point.
We'll wait and see. At this moment in time, do you know what? Every time I hear about a new transfer, my heart starts pounding because I don't know if it's good news or bad news, depending on the name that's announced.
Yeah, and we get linked to players, and then a couple of days later, they're not even being talked about anymore. We've moved on to somebody else.
Some of the names. As soon as we're linked with them, I'm just like, oh Jesus! I'd rather we take no one.
Yeah, let's just
play the kids. Let's play the kids.
So somebody suggested on YouTube earlier that we should just play the kids next week because at least we'll get some fight and some heart, some passion. It'll never happen, but I wouldn't be against it, to be honest with you. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. It's been a depressing chat, but good to have your company nonetheless. If everyone could please subscribe to the channel, comment your thoughts down below, and give us a wee like on the
video. It was an interesting bit of therapy, this, Carl. Thank you.
Yeah, much needed therapy. Okay, then I'll see you next week then, Brush.
Yeah, take care.